My next guests are the new sensation duo behind the new Command Point podcast, a hub the competitive Kill Team players absolutely need to know about. It's not even optional at this point, in my opinion. Not only do they make content that helps you get better at the game, their Discord is home base to the TTS Kill Team community that has spawned the largest Kill Team tournaments on Earth to date. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the show, Shane and Ryan of the Command Point podcast.
How's it going?
Woo!
Happy to be here. It's good to be back in my case.
Yeah.
Yeah, first time for me.
Yeah, we've had Shane on before. Ryan, this is where we got you for the first time today. Now, today's episode is called Level Up. You two have now run the biggest online tournaments. Shane, you recently won the largest Kill Team comp ever. And all three of us, we have actionable tips today. That's what the episode's about, to help new players and old players improve their game. But first, really quickly, can you guys tell me, just talk a little bit about what the Command Point podcast is and the Discord and all that before we jump in?
Ooh, okay. So you want me to take this, Shane?
Yeah, you got this one.
Okay. So basically what the whole Command Point podcast and YouTube channel thing is about is I was basically just getting really interested into Kill Team and all the little minutia in that game, and it was really fascinating to me. And after listening to your YouTube videos and stuff, I talked to Shane because me and Shane have been playing for a little bit, and he's probably twice the player I am, and he was kicking my butt before he even owned the rule book. So I was like, hey, let's you want to do something? And he's like, sure. And then gosh, what is it, almost a year later?
Yeah, I think it's
a little over a year later.
We're going on a year.
Yeah,
I think it was October when we started talking about it. So
yeah. And then around when did we start doing the Discord server? When did we?
That was right when COVID started happening, because we did it for the Invitational.
Yeah,
and we needed a place to pilot that tournament.
Yeah,
and the Discord was it. So yeah,
and now it's popping.
Yeah.
It's
pretty nice.
It's like doing so the Command Point. There's kind of like two aspects to this. There's the side of the coin that is your podcast, your content. You guys do things on YouTube and also through Spotify and things like that. People can find your content in a number of places. But then there's also the Discord, which is its own community. There will be links in the description if you're listening. Join, because then you can play tournaments on TTS and be playing against some of the best players in the world. We have top eighters from basically every tournament that's happened, with the exception of say Michael Holy. Pretty much every other top 8 player that's taken a GT is either actively in there, comes in and out, maybe joins for this comp, but life gets in the way for the other ones. The community there is amazing, and your content's great too. So if you're listening, link in the description. Go over, check this out, and get started in this community, because if you're not a part of this yet, you're missing out, basically, I think.
Shucks. Jeez. What do you say to that? No, yeah, I've been really happy with how the tournaments have turned out. We've always had top rated, at least one or two at the very low end. I almost want to say 4 or 5 of who I would rank the best Kill Team players in the world are always coming out for our TTS tournaments. So
yeah, and it's not just the Kill Team players from the US too. We have people from all over the world playing, and that's kind of a cool aspect to it as well that I don't think you can get otherwise.
Yeah. All right. So yep, link in the description. Check that out, guys, if you're listening. So today's episode, like we talked about, it's basically, we're calling it Level Up. And so we've got 3 players here. We've all done top 8 stuff, and have maybe some tips that if you're stuck and you're listening and you're having a hard time getting through, or maybe you're just always trying to get better. I know there's a lot of people that are like that too. They're using Kill Team as a metric for self-improvement in a way. Some tips that could maybe take your game to another level. So we're just kind of shout things out, maybe one at a time, and if we can, maybe just discuss, riff on it a minute, and then kind of move on to something else that comes to mind, maybe, because there's lots of little things, like you said, the minutia of the game. There's certain things that are they seem small. Maybe it's something somebody never even thought about, but they can implement these maybe one at a time. Come back and listen, something like that. Come back after a little bit of implementing it. going onto your Discord, playing some games on Tabletop Simulator. Maybe next time they'll try something else, start implementing little bits of this. And I'm sure there's some of the things that I've thought about that would be cool to talk about on here. That if people just implemented a couple little things, top 8s become possible through the little things, right?
For sure. Yeah, it's really hard to distinguish some of the differences.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start implementing like little things, I don't know, there's just so much like clear improvement.
Yeah,
I think in this game.
Yeah, like you see Micromancer, for example, a really good player. So much of his stuff is like pile-ins and consolidation. Just so like you can make an entire top 8 kind of a thing reliably over just honing in on that one aspect. Like he's always got a toe and cover. He's always piling in and consolidating the right way, setting up for that. Just that little thing. This little thing took him to one of his first tournaments. He made it to second place.
Yeah.
So just honing in on some of these things, if you're listening, would be a really cool thing to try. I would suggest. And so, what do you guys want to do? Should we go first? Want to just blurt something out? Should I go? What do you think?
I think I have a good one that we can start out with.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah. So this isn't even really having to do with actually. I guess it kind of does. It's not really any like sort of like strategy or like tactic to like implement when you're like actually playing Kill Team. It's just finding ways of actually playing Kill Team easier for you. So things like the way you track your victory and command points, using something like a whiteboard, or I know a lot of when you're at a tournament, there's a lot of sheets that have like actual like scorecards to fill out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing like a practice game and you don't want to like keep printing out like scorecards, use like a whiteboard or something, just so that you don't have to like think in your mind, or like keep in your mind like what the score is, basically, I guess, and not using dice to keep track of those things just because they get knocked or whatever.
That's a great point. I've seen that happen. In fact, there was a thing with Magic the Gathering that was happening next to me one time that was a big issue because they were having like some kind of an event using a spin down kind of a dice that got bumped, and then there was a dispute over what his health was or something to that effect, and it was a problem. So yeah, if you're at an event, you probably want to be able to know what your points are and stuff like that because you got to report it. So it's good to know all that and to be able to confirm and be like, oh, what was my secondary again, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Just don't use dice.
Yeah,
they always get knocked. Yeah. And then
you pick them up and roll them like, oh crap.
Yeah, and you're like, oh yeah,
that was my victory point.
Yeah, use different colored dice to designate things like wounds remaining on a multi-wound model that isn't like the same colored dice as you're using to indicate which models have flesh wounds on them.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
It's just like clarity stuff, really.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what you're going for here. It's just like overall, just don't even give yourself the opportunity to get confused by the way that you're organizing your own stuff.
Yeah, this game is complicated enough already. Look for ways to make it easier just for you to actually play the game.
Yep. And that's like there's so much to that. Just simplifying, like having the tools and stuff too. Like I would tell somebody have multiple ways to measure, for example. One of the guys that used to just tank and kill in the early days of the game, I saw him, he was playing Tau. He used to use 2 measuring tapes and stuff, because he'd be measuring for your ranges, like for the greater good and this and that. He'd have one just laid out for an aura effect, or aura, however you'd pronounce that, and then he'd be moving the actual guy maybe onto a point, like checking his distance, stuff like that. And you see that a lot with top players. Alex Squires is one of them. He will have multiple different tools going. He's got his laser pointer and his, hard ruler thing, like a protractor almost. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
And then a measuring tape. And he's an engineer, and it's like, here he comes. He's got all these tools and stuff, and it like helps him keep track. So yeah,
he's just like, he's got like a leather belt. He just keeps pulling out tape measures.
This Tim the Tool Man coming into play.
Yeah.
Got a Batman utility belt going.
Yeah, no, like the protractor thing, I kind of have one of the same things. It's like a 5-sided ruler basically, and each side is a different measurement. So like the long side is like 9 inches, then there's like a 1-inch measurement, which is great for measuring if a model's in combat or is able to successfully make a charge, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I'll always have just like the normal GW tape measure on me, a couple different types of dice.
Yeah.
And then my whiteboard.
When I started playing this game, for the longest time, I literally just had like a busted ruler or busted tape measure that you gave me.
Yes.
And it wouldn't even like stick in one place.
No,
like,
yeah.
I would have to do all my measurements just like holding this thing, and then it was just like half eyeballing.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first day that Kill Team came out, I went to the shop. I got my core rule book, and they had the Kill Team ruler, and that thing lasted me a full year until last game at a tournament. Last round of the last game of the tournament, one time I snapped it back, and the tip popped off and hit me in the eye, just a metal chunk at the very end of it. So yeah, you might want to have a couple measuring tools just for that as well, because you never know when your tape measure is just going to die on you. It happens. Yeah, it just gave up. It said, okay, a year's enough, doing all these tournaments and practice games. All right, so who's going to go next? Should I say something? What do you think? Shane, you got one? What do you want to do?
I've got a whole bunch.
Okay.
So
let's hear it.
I will say that none of my tips that I have here relate to like in-game play. It's mostly...
Oh, that's interesting.
It's either mentality stuff or like preparation stuff or just general things.
That's cool because mine are a lot of in-game, and I was wondering how much overlap we would have. Like, okay, guys, we've got a couple tips for you each, and then it's like we ended up with 3 tips.
Yeah, no,
so
none of mine are like related to movement or like in like when you're playing Kill Team. So this is
you're getting the more holistic guide to Kill Team.
Really, that's what it is.
All aspects of the game.
Okay, let's hear it, guys.
So here's the first one. This is probably like the closest to it, and this is about roster building.
Okay.
So obviously when you go to a tournament, you're going to make a 20-man roster. And sometimes it could be kind of overwhelming trying to figure out what goes on that roster and how you want to actually approach different situations. So the way that I do it, and I think this is a lot easier than, say, piling through every possible matchup, is like splitting matchups in terms of toughness 3 and toughness 4. I think toughness is one of the biggest things, like indicators of what should I bring in a matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
And so look at it in terms of durability. What am I going to take versus toughness 3, and what am I going to take against toughness 4?
That's really interesting. I have never thought of it that way. I've always just done like, okay, I've broken into archetypes. Like, okay, shooty horde. This is the enemy. Is the shooty horde. And then there's like the elites, the Marines and Death Watch and stuff. But that's an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, like when I mean that was basically the whole thing with my Space Marines roster for bats, and that was like in the most extreme way possible because I had an entire sub faction that was like, this is what I'm going to take against toughness 4, and then I had another sub faction on the other half of the roster, which was, this is what I'll take versus toughness 3.
Yeah, you
and I still have that.
Yep.
And I have that with my Drakari too, although it's a little bit less obvious, I think. But you need to. Sometimes there's going to be like the flex models that are going to be in every part of your list, but I think there should always be certain changes happening, like hunches that where I'm against this, so I'm going to lean towards these options on my roster. Little things, just like toughness 4 most of the time struggles a little more against armor piercing than toughness 3 does, just because it's like, what are you putting your points into? You don't need to spend 5 extra points on a weapon that's AP 3, D3 damage, strength times 2 if you're fighting guardsmen.
Right. Exactly, and it doesn't help you that much even against things like Gottfried because he's got the invuln.
And then you free up points to do other things with your list, and to like fill in other gaps.
Yeah, 5 points gets you so much. It doesn't matter what faction it is. Like once you've got these things in there, you're thinking, oh my god, he's so expensive, to get that Marine or something like that. But it's like, dude, you look at 5 points, that's 4 points for the Power Fist. That's strength 8, D3, all this stuff. That's a grab. That's 2 grabs in your list potentially. It gets crazy.
Yeah, you can get like, I mean, yeah, look at budget things like that, like a grav gun in the right situation is like so much value.
Yeah,
Just
it's.
wild.
I think that gun in particular is the most cost efficient weapon that Space Marines can bring.
Absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
such a good swing weapon too. It's like it's okay against T3. It's great against T4. 3-up saves, 6-up saves. Grab's good.
Yeah. Like I remember seeing a conversation once. I think it was on like a Glass Discord or something, one of the channels, and like these guys were talking about um like Tyranids, like with Tyranid warriors, and how they would never ever use the scything talons over the bone swords.
Oh,
And it's like just the other day I was playing against a Tyranid player, and I was playing like demons or something, and I was thinking like I hope he uses the bone swords instead because it's getting
yeah,
him nothing, whereas he could be getting rerolls. It's just like little value things like that.
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. All right. So I got a tip. Let's see here.
Let's hear it.
I wrote some down. Okay. I'll start. I guess because I was thinking about like starting towards the beginning, and I was thinking I have one for deployment, but
Ooh.
yeah. But I'm going to start with basically a very simple one that goes even before that, which is since we're kind of talking about roster building and all that. I would say have a plan in your games when you're writing your lists and in your approach, like when you're setting up, you're thinking secondaries, all that stuff. I usually try to have all of that figured out before the tournament actually starts. And basically, the reason is because like if a player says, "Oh, this is all hold format. Because of that, I'm going to take 20 dudes. I am going to win on positional." That is a plan. You're going in and you're going to get a different result than if you were like, "I really like this model," which we want to, say that there's no wrong way to play. If you really like something, maybe find a way to make that work. I've seen some amazing things happen like that. Shane, you're a master of that. Coming up with things that you just would not think would be as viable as they are. Um, but but you go in with a plan still, even when it's like, oh, I have my zealot spec, poxwalker or whatever, just something crazy that hits the table that you weren't expecting. You have a plan for that guy, and so that's the first thing that I would say to somebody listening is have a plan for this game and for what you're going to do.
So, like, kind of going off, like having a plan when it comes to, I guess, just like list building for tournaments. I genuinely feel that if you want to find competitive success in a tournament, what you should first do is learn the format and then build your list. Like, don't even don't even really like be attached to a faction if you're going to a tournament unless you're just going there and you just want to play that faction. If you want to do that, that's cool. But I
Yeah.
feel like if you want to make top 8, top 4, take the whole thing, learn the packet, then build the list. Don't even like have a faction in your mind. So what do I mean by like learning the format? Basically studying the layout of the objectives, the terrain, and the deployment zones, and determine which factions will have the best chance of scoring the most points, primary and secondary, if assuming that there are secondary objectives in your packet.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed 100%.
so in a case of like if the primary objectives are hold one and hold more, probably your best bet is going to be like fast moving horde-ish factions. If the objectives are, or if the primary objectives are like kill and hold, then factions that are more resilient and can efficiently put out damage, they're probably going to have the leg up in that sort of format. And then if you're playing on an arena board or something like the LVO 2021 board, your best bet is probably going to go towards a more melee centric faction and list overall.
Mm-hmm.
If the board is wide open and there's like sparse terrain, kind of like the what we've seen in the TAO, the map that we've been using on there for that one, using a faction with effective long range shooting and faster movement, something like I don't know, Drakari is probably the way to go there.
Yeah, you're just always going to do better if you're not married to a faction because like look at this recent the Transatlantic Open, right? It's like look at how the veteran change is in this pack. Each pack, each FAQ makes certain things better or worse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And I actually have a very good one on the topic of not being married to certain factions.
Mm-hmm.
And this tip will probably upset some people just because it isn't what they want to hear.
Hey, that's the tagline of this is real talk for competitive gaming. So let's hear it.
Yep.
So if you're like a green player, like you're relatively new to the game, like you've got your faction and you're trying to make it work and it's not working. And most importantly, if your true goal is like becoming better at the game, like that is you're actually committed to improvement, then you should pick a team that is simple to play and grind out games with them, like a lot of games, until you have a better understanding of the fundamentals of Kill Team and the rules of the game and movement. And as you're doing this, you're learning matchups, you're encountering other factions, you're kind of seeing what they do, but you're not overwhelming yourself. And when I was playing this game, for instance, I mean, I got lucky because I just happened to pick a team that ended up being suitable for this. I played Novak Necrons for a long time.
Yeah.
And I really played a lot of games with Novak Necrons. And it was a good team to learn the game.
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, I think that Novak Necrons specifically, they're very forgiving. There's not a ton of moving parts. It's just, it's easy, and it's really friendly to a new player, I think.
Yeah, they for sure are. They're jokingly referred to as like the training wheels faction sometimes. But yeah, no, if you're a good player, if you are a new player, consider giving those guys a try.
Yeah, I think that Space Marines would probably be the opposite. I think that's something a lot of people go into as like a first team, and it's just like, oh no, like how do I make my All Primaris team work? It's like, you don't, not yet.
How do I make my Ultramarines Primaris Reaver team work?
Exactly. Like, this is your first post. You're in this Discord now, and it's you're brand new to the game, and you maybe bought models before any research or something, and you're coming in. It's like, I don't want to say don't play it, but it's like you're gonna have a harder time, and it's not gonna let you like overcome. Like, you get into some of these teams and some of these builds, some of these models, and it's like you're kind of stuck. There's like a ceiling that you hit as a new player because your team isn't able to grow with you, like say Eldar maybe can, or a team like Necrons. Necrons are just always going to be good regardless of format, anything like that, and it's just such a different experience. Yeah.
Like, and I guess the hunch there, the most important thing is, if your biggest priority is getting better, you should do this. If that's not your biggest priority, then play whatever you want. The orc guy probably wants to play orcs, and that's fine. But if that guy is saying that he truly, like, his priority is to get better, but he refuses to try something that might help him get better, then I mean, I don't know. Like, what?
It is the definition of insanity. You keep trying the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So,
and you're gonna get better playing other factions over time. Like, you will learn when you play a faction, you figure out what keeps that faction up at night, basically, what scares that player across from you when you're not playing that faction.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to go into one now, Beeranid?
Sure. Let me grab my little list here. Oh, let's take a look. We got so much.
That sounds like a big list. You hear him strain when he lifted that?
It's just like a Bible of Kill Team names.
It's a Kill Team Bible.
Yeah, man. I know, because some of these have been video ideas and stuff. All right. So at the beginning of the game, we're here kind of, that's why I said I kind of wanted to talk about deployment. And again, these tips are a lot of in-game that I have. So when it comes to deployment, one thing that I see all the time that is like a dead giveaway that gives a read, that it's like a noob or something like that. Don't pick up a guy and then decide where he's going on the board. You're not being deliberate. And I think that being deliberate in your deployment is a big thing. I think that it tells me that you don't have a plan, and I want you to think about the plan, then go get the right guy to go put in the right place as you're deploying. Because even a bad plan with some forethought will get you closer than no thought at all. because like then maybe your comms can actually squeeze into that little spot where he wouldn't if you didn't consciously like have that sniper scooted over a millimeter. It's like this one thing got me co-third at SoCal, and this just isn't, it isn't just in deployment. You see this all the time on like say Arena, where even very good players maybe box themselves in. I guess the overall theme of this would be deliberate, but when it comes to deployment, think about what you're doing before you go and grab that guy to put him down. Don't pick up a guy, then decide where he's going and stuff like that. Does that kind of make sense to you guys?
Yeah. Practicing my opening moves and my deployment and when I'm preparing for a tournament, studying the tournament pack is actually like a big part of the I guess I want to say like the training regimen that goes into it for me. So like whenever, like I know a lot of players will like sad hammer, like they will play like two factions like against each other basically for tournament prep. Practicing deployment and then the turn one move on any sort of deployment objective layout combination is what works best for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just don't go on autopilot, basically. I mean, going on autopilot is terrible. That's how you lose games.
Yeah, it's just I see
because you make little mistakes that are punishable, and you're not thinking about the possibilities, I guess.
No, it's so common. Like somebody picks up a model, especially you see it so clear on TTS. They pick up a model and they bring it way over to the thing, and there's like that little lag that happens, where the model's dragging across, and then they just hover. It's like they're thinking, it's like, why did you grab that model? How do you know the other guy wasn't better? How are you going to fit your comms next to the sniper? Things like that. It's like figure it out before you've grabbed that model. Figure it out. What is the plan for that model? Maybe you should be deploying this other guy to give a threat and make it scary for me to set up over there. Something like that. Just things like that. Maybe thinking a little bit ahead. And it's not thinking 2 or 3 turns ahead. It's just first round, just opening. Where do you want your threats to be? Where are your auras? You need that comms, you need that auspex, the recon suite thing from the Tau with the recon drone, things like that. Where is all of that going to go? Okay, so we're back. We had a little connectivity issue, and we're going to try a different device. So audio quality may be a slight bit different, but I think we're all set to go, though. Sounds good so far.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe a little more grainy, not quite as crisp.
A little more gritty.
That's what we like. We like it.
We're in the bunkers.
Yeah.
All right, so who's going next?
I think it's my turn to go.
I think it is too.
Okay, so this is kind of a two-parter.
Okay.
And I've only really realized this, at least it feels this way to me recently, after I've played a few games of 9th edition 40K. So this is all about understanding the impact that variance has on the game of Kill Team and the value of your command points. So because you are rolling so few die in Kill Team compared to big 40K, variance plays a much more impactful role in the outcome of these games. Command points are an extremely precious resource, which shouldn't be squandered on faction tactics, which would require you to roll for their effect to trigger mostly. But they should be saved for things like the tactical reroll. So it will make for a more consistent game over the grand scheme of over the total amount of games that you play. You will see more market improvement if you just save your CP for those tactical rerolls. So wound rerolls, injury rerolls, stuff like that, just to decrease the influence of variance. And when I say variance, I just mean luck or RNG of just the way that dice are rolling, basically.
Yeah.
So going further off that, when list building, players should also look at sub-faction traits for whatever Kill Team faction they're looking at, which provide things like rerolling advances, rerolling charges, rerolling hit and or wound rolls, just so that you're getting those things without having to spend the CP to tack reroll. You know what I mean? So you can save that tack reroll for injury rolls, basically. So this is partly why Black Templars and Renegade Heretic Astartes made it to the Bats finals, is because they both have the same sub-faction trait of being able to reroll their charges.
Yep.
It's also in part why we've seen 5 out of 6 Drakari players advance in the Transatlantic Open, because on round 2 they get to reroll advances and charges. Turn 3, their weapon skill increases by 1 across the entirety of their kill team.
Absolutely.
And round 4, they're re-rolling their nerve tests at no cost. So with a faction like Drakari, where your efficiencies are so high in that aspect, they can afford to spend command points early and often in order to use their 1 CP tactics that give them a boost to their like normal movement capabilities, like fire and fade and stuff. And they're just a very strong faction because of how efficient they are with the command point economy.
Agreed. I think that rerolls of charges is one of the biggest that you can go for, but it's like if you can't get that, if that's not like something a sub-faction that your team has, you want a sub-faction that helps in multiple phases. Like I know that like Black Templars is a thing for Space Marines that they can reroll charges, but another one like the Salamanders is the perfect example of what I'm talking about, of helping in multiple phases. That rerolling, on Overwatch, you're getting a reroll to hit and to wound. In the shooting phase, to hit and to wound. The fight phase, to hit and to wound. It helps you in multiple phases. Same with like Twisted Helix Genestealer cults. That's why I've always gone that way rather than like Pauper Princes, because Pauper Princes helps you in one way. You get to re-roll some failed hit rolls, but Helix, you get a plus to your movement and you get a plus to your offense because you're +1 strength. So it's like I tend to go for sub-factions that offer multiple things and help in multiple areas rather than just that one. Kind of on that subject.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, just especially going back to like how you spend your like the command points that you have, like use your in-game currency for like surefire things more often than not.
Yeah.
Don't gamble when you don't have to. But there are going to be moments where you need to gamble a little bit, like if you're in a losing position. And I think just as you go on, like understanding when to take those risks and when not to.
Yeah.
Usually you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, that's
like those 2 CP. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say like those 2 CP, like roll a 4 or roll a D6, and on a 4-up your guy doesn't die. He just takes a flesh wound. Like a lot of factions have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't fall into that most of the time. Sometimes you do, but it's more often than not you don't want to be using that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only time you should be gambling is when you're behind, because it's like you're already, if you're ahead, you play safe. You stop, basically. Because if things continue the way they are, you win the game, right? It's now in the opponent's court to change the state of the game and the board and all that. It's like that's why I usually go for like a really big turn 1, because, things like jump packs and whatnot, it's like you can get a huge turn 1 and then just disappear. And be like, okay, now you try and catch up. You're 7 points behind from turn 1. What can you do? And I'm going to be scoring little things here and there, but that was a huge jump, and now I'm not giving you the opportunity to come back and do the same to me, basically. But
Drakari are really good at that. What you're saying?
Yeah, they sure are, man.
Because like not only do they have the tools to get such a big lead early on if you play it right, but as you're trying to claw back, they're getting stronger. From power from pain. Just like, oh my god,
they're literally a snowball faction.
Yeah, but so to summarize what you're talking about with the CP thing, though, what you're talking about basically is go for the surefire things. Don't do like the 2 CP tactic that only now happens. You paid your CP, but now the effect only happens if you get a 4-up, maybe. So it's a coin flip. You've paid 2 CP, and now you only have 50-50 odds that 2 CP is going to do anything. That's bad, and you shouldn't be relying on that and have that built into your strategy. Those are the maybes. Those are the gambles for when you're behind, because you play safe when you're ahead, you gamble when you're behind. Then maybe you can use those. But just generally speaking, you want to be spending your CP on things that you know are going to have an effect. 3 CP, death denied. No roll needed. I've missed a crucial shot. I need that kill 1 to be put on the board. Okay, I have that tactical reroll. I at least get to reroll that thing. I don't have to roll to be able to make the reroll. I pay the CP, it happens. So I agree with that.
Yeah.
So is it me? Is it my turn now?
Sure.
Well, let's do it.
Okay, here's one. This is another roster building one. I think about roster building a lot,
Okay.
as you can tell. But this is one that I think is huge, and it was something that I wasn't doing enough until the last couple months. And this is basically what I have written here is scrutinize your roster thoroughly, understand the strengths of it and why you're taking it and what makes it good, but don't tunnel vision on those strengths. Think of those problem matchups, those matchups you don't want to think about, that you just hope you don't have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Actually think about it in like, and how it's going to work in practice, and come up with answers to it, and or at least try. Because I mean, a lot of people, they kind of get this, like, they're like kind of like unpeeling their faction and their roster, and they're finding all these strengths. They're thinking about the situations where their team is going to be good.
Yes.
And they tunnel vision on that. And it's like confirmation bias almost. Like they find something else and they're like, oh, this is going to be so good here. But they don't think about the negative situations. Like they know that it's there. It's like a cognitive like dissonance thing.
It is.
It's like that, you know that there's that matchup you don't want to think about.
You know those Novak Necrons are going to be coming at you at some point. And if you're not prepared.
Yeah, like I did this a little bit with the Invitational, where I built an orc roster, and I didn't really have an answer for Custodes on the roster, but I was thinking about like, oh, I probably just won't even have to worry about it. Like, there's a good chance I won't even face Custodes. Who cares? Let's not focus too much on it. And then guess what? I had to play Custodes.
Yeah.
And it's just a serious thing. Like, look at your roster with a critical lens, because it's that's how you improve it. You need to know what you're up against. You need to don't get so caught up on how cool it can be.
Yeah,
because everybody wants it to be as good as it is in their mind. There's always going to be stuff that's going to give you a hard time.
Yeah, and you got to not blame the dice when that hard time comes. That's another like side to this same coin. It's like they build this thing, they're only thinking about the best that can happen with it, and then when that fails terribly, they'll go, oh yeah, well I just rolled bad. It's like you should have had a condition in there to where rolling didn't matter. Like you want to be playing solitaire. I know it's a stupid thing to say, but you don't want there to be variance. You don't want there to be swing. You don't want a 6-up to need to do, decide the game and stuff like that. Like you don't want dice to be a thing. If it is, then that's chance that's winning you or losing you games, not deliberate skill and thought. And that's, again, it just keeps coming. That's what I was talking about with the deployment. Be deliberate. But yeah, great point. I agree. A lot of times people, they see all the good in what a faction can do, and they forget, like, oh yeah, I only have a 6-up save.
Yeah. I mean, that's a serious problem. Like people just, they don't want to think about the bad things.
No.
And I get it. We're all playing a game here. But if you're trying to go to a tournament and win, it's you should have like contingency plans for matchups and
Yeah. I think the best way to describe a kill team game is it's like a airplane that's on fire and it's on its way down, and you are behind the basically the controls there, and just when you think you're getting it back together, it's like, oh, the wing just flew off. Now you're in a tilting death spiral. Like, it's a constant set of like, holy crap, I'm gonna die, crisis averted, oh no, new crisis. That, like, you just got to be able to handle and not leave it up to, well, maybe the wing will come back. I don't know. It comes back 16% odds if I roll a 6. This light switch, I flip it a few more times, maybe it comes on, and I can see, the mountain that I'm about to crash into that I need to go around. Something like that. It's like, that's kind of what's going on with Kill Team. It's just a never-ending series of unfortunate events that are going on that you are now trying to manage and come out ahead of.
For sure.
I'm sure that Games Workshop really appreciates the comparison of Kill Team to a flaming plane crash in terms of how it is played, Beeranid.
Yes. I have just lost all chance.
No, but I agree with that assessment. Yeah, Shane, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say that the dark, sad part of this tip that I'm giving is a lot of the times this kind of scrutiny leads me to eventually hit a point where I have to look at the roster that I've built for like a tournament and be like, yeah, I want to win this tournament, and this just isn't going to cut it.
Yeah.
and I have to look at other things. Like I really wanted to try Mefret Necrons for TAO,
Mhm.
and I had an all right roster built, and it had its strengths, and I was really piling through trying to make it work. I really wanted to make it work, and eventually I had to hang it up and move on.
Same thing with me. I wanted to run Harlequins at TAO, and I just found Drakari to be a better faction in every way.
Yeah, man. No, they say in there's like something like it's a musician and artist kind of a thing. That's saying is like kill your babies, basically. Like these things that you,
Oh God.
yeah, that you're in love with, that you're just like that aren't gonna do well. Something like that. Yeah, that's dark, isn't it? Jeez,
Morbid analogies
It's
tonight.
very
Yeah.
morbid. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
no, that wasn't mine though. You can't put that on me. That's like a famous saying. You can Google that.
No, I get it.
This is
Yeah.
the first time I've heard it, but yeah, no, I'm sure.
Yeah, but
you have to let go of what you love.
yeah.
Sometimes you got to break some eggs to
You
make
gotta-
an omelet.
you got to see the models on the table not as cool characters with individual personalities and story arcs that you're connected to. You need to look at them as assets,
Yeah, they're numbers.
purely as assets. They are numbers. They are numbers in your phone, numbers in your Battle Scribe app, and they are there. They are there to win at any cost.
But also make them look cool.
Yeah, no, of
Yeah,
course.
make
them
those
look
numbers awesome. Give them a sick paint job.
cool. Yeah, yes, exactly. Literally, give them a sick paint job.
Okay, so is it on to me now?
yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a short one.
Okay.
Don't shoot someone that just shot. Holy crap. Stop it, guys. Stop it. I see this all the time with newer players. It's like, okay, this guy's, going to shoot a thing, and you're like, oh, don't kill me. And it's a big, scary gun, right? And it shoots, and you're like, oh. But there's this other big, scary gun somewhere else, or a leader, or, that you can kill in turn one, maybe. But you're focused on that thing that was just big and scary, and you shoot that thing that just shot rather than kill the guy who's gonna shoot you next turn. Shoot the thing that has not shot yet before he can contribute output to this turn. Holy crap! It's something that is just like I said, there are basic things, little things that you can do in your game to make a giant difference, and this is one of them. It's the most common thing that I see somebody do that I would say is incorrect, unoptimal play. Of course, there's going to be times, yes, you do shoot a guy who just shot. Fine. You need that rail rifle dead, whatever. But, if there's a guy standing on an objective and he's going to shoot you and he hasn't shot yet, he's probably a better target than that guy who already just shot.
Yeah, agreed.
I think you said something like this, Ryan, in a recent video that we did.
Yeah.
Something about like don't target models that have already done their stuff.
Yeah, they've already activated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there are probably going to be some niche instances where it's like if there's literally like one model that your team is capable of shooting or something like that in this instance, and that model's already shot. Of course, you want to put shots on target.
Yeah.
But
of course,
more often than not, you should not return fire, as it were, into the models that just shoot. You should be targeting other models that are yet to activate that are an active threat to your kill team.
Yeah, and it's like I said, like you were just saying, it's a generalization. It's a best practices kind of a thing. There will be some games, you don't want to just I am robot, I push models and roll dice with any of these rules, right? There's going to be little exceptions that happen, but one of them that but these are like guiding practices, I would say, is the best way to think about this. These are things that if you follow general rule, you'll do better than if you didn't.
Yeah. It's most plans don't go exactly as anticipated, but it's good to plan ahead and then just move forward off that. Having a plan is better than having no plan at all.
Yeah. So
all
since
right.
mine was short, should I go again? What do you think?
I think Shane, do you have another one?
I got two more. I don't know how many you got.
Oh, well, we went through all mine. Sorry.
How many do you got left, Beeranid?
I could think of a few. I'll do another one.
Sure.
Okay. So this is probably one of my biggest ones. What to do when you go first, right?
Mm.
What do you do? oh my gosh, I have to go first. This is bad. Basically, I think that where people go wrong here is they don't see the future. And they line up, right, for where they are now. Like, oh, okay, I'll just ready here and I'll shoot this guy. It's like, he's not going to be there in a minute.
Yeah.
So how do you know where he's going to be? Well, you predict the future by creating the future. Okay, this is your time to be bold. When you are going first, you now have to be the one who is driving the entirety of the rest of the turn, if possible, most of the time. Again, generally speaking, there will be things, yeah, sometimes you just ready your whole team and say, I don't care where you are. You know, maybe Tau's a big thing because you start big and kind of close in on them, and then there's nowhere to really hide, or you want to shoot first. Okay, that's fine. But don't aim where they are now. They won't be there. The easiest way to predict the future and then control the future because you predicted the future is to think of something I call honeypots, right? Bounty tokens, a guy that just fell back, objective markers. These are things that dictate and let you know ahead of time, with fairly reasonable odds, of where this person, this player, will have models engaged on this battlefield. You know they need to go to that point, right? So line up your guns not on the model across the board, set up and put a threat on an objective. And a lot of times you'll be doing a lot better than just aiming where they were now and, oh no, he hid, right? Because if they're too afraid to come onto an objective, and if they do, they get creamed, you win that game. Yeah. And the same thing with bounty tokens. You killed a guy, they need to go get that token. It's the last round. Oh no, you go first. A bounty token's a good thing to point up on. You know they need that clutch point to put that swing over and win this close game. You put up a gun there. Same thing with a guy that fell back. Okay, he fell back, or maybe he failed a charge off a decisive or something like that. Well, you know exactly where that model's going to be, so set up to kill him. You know, there's things where you know kind of what's going on, or you can dictate the future, like I said, by just readying models. That is a thing. Readying models is big, but to close this out, basically, what I would say, I see people going way too slow in the movement phase and way too fast in the offensive phases. And the offensive phases are, oh yeah, rolling dice, this and that, and they're forgetting, oh no, I'm Sasya, I reroll once. Oh, that was my sniper, I rerolled once. Oh crap, I never activated my comms there. They're missing things going too fast in the point of the game when they should be going slow, and they spend forever on the movement phase, deliberating, oh, what do I do? Should I go here? You know where they want to go. Predict the future and control the future.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback, and the simplest terms for me personally to understand was you point your guns at where they want to be.
Yeah,
exactly.
If you have to go first, you don't know for sure that they're going to go there because now they're reacting. But the alternative is they're going to go somewhere where they, would have been not their ideal position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just point your guns in the place where they want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and it goes for melee too. You know, kind of like, okay, they want that objective. Maybe next turn. Cool. So I'm going to set up and cover here, so I get a blind charge on that. Let them move in. Maybe it'll be next turn I get them. Maybe it'll be turn 3. But when they go for that objective, they're eating a charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you set up ahead of time using those honeypots. Think about it. Is there a point on that board where they must go? It's like the moth on the porch light. There's points on on that board where the opponent will try to go. Maybe it's a center. The center of the board. If you know that domination is a thing, that odds are if that's a secondary, and it's only 1 out of 6 choices that you could have picked, and oh, by the way, they had to pick 2 out of 3 or something, maybe one, they have to have one of those be a positional secondary they had to pick for that packet or something like that. It becomes a very safe bet to just set up and be like, okay, well, I know to take this positional, he's probably going to go there. But I get people that have been like, are you psychic? Because I'll tell them exactly what they're going to do. I'll be like, okay, so you're going to move here, so I'm going to set up right here, boom, and now I've got this. And they're just like, holy crap. You get a lot of concedes there. People just quit sometimes because they were already maybe behind or something like that. And that's just all it is it's just, it's not superhuman. You're not seeing the future. You're predicting. You're creating the future in the game, basically, by understanding where the honeypots are a lot of times. And that would be my tip. And I think that's probably the biggest one that I can give. A lot of times people don't know what to do when they go first. When it's your first turn, I mean, you have initiative, you must go first. You got to be the bastard. You got to be the bold person a lot of times. When you're going second, a lot of times you're counterpunching. You might have an entire ready team that now you have to figure something out about. But the one that people have a hard time with is that first one. I go first. Oh no, what do I do?
Yeah, I mean, you were saying earlier about like having a plan for every situation. Like if you just go first, turn one, and then you're like, guess I lose. Like, well, geez, you didn't think very far into this plan because you need to know. Like the whole part of like making a good plan is what are you going to do if the ideal thing doesn't happen?
Yeah, have contingencies.
How do I pivot? If you just instantly can't pivot because you didn't go second on the first turn, it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Half the time, statistically, you're going to wind up doing that.
Yeah. Yep. I have seen things go like terrible for people. Like I've seen, Deathwatch have one model left after a round of, Grey Knights have one model left after a round of Deathwatch shooting. And yeah, turn one, when that happens, you're just kind of like, crap, what now? But again, guys, if you're listening, this is general stuff. We're talking, 9 out of 10 games. These are kind of tips that you want to have in mind, I think.
Yep. Hey, but that Grey Knight player went first and decided they were okay with the shootout. So, they made that choice, right? They put themselves in a spot where the Deathwatch can move and shoot them. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You asked for it.
Anyway, I have a good one here.
Okay.
And this is something you can look at so many of the best players, and there is a huge correlation between this. Get a dedicated practice partner who likes Kill Team and wants to play games with you, like a lot. Like, look at all the best players. So many of them have like their one guy that they play with all the time, or it's like a duo, right? There's so many duos I've seen in this community and it's always like they practiced together.
Yeah.
Obviously, once in a while, there's like an exception. Like you've got Michael T. Holy, who is like his own practice partner. But not everyone can. Not everyone can stat hammer like that.
You know what? He did have Miguel for a little bit, who was first place LBO. Yeah. So like hell of a practice partner, right?
Yeah, you're right. I forgot all about that. Yeah. And then you had what's his name? Chuck and Eric. Those two guys.
Oh, absolutely. They're killers.
Yeah. Even just like players that tend to do. I mean, like Tom and James are like a duo that have had success, and it's like no wonder. It's like you see these guys playing with each other all the time, and the duos with the practice partners tend to do better than like the lone wolf guy who just finds games, like pick up games with randos, and I think it really helps.
Yeah, Alex and Emmanuel, right?
Alex and Emmanuel, that's a good one.
There you go.
Janice and
Ben. She has Ben Cash.
Yeah,
she practices with him a lot.
Yeah,
gross.
That's what she told us.
It's like the lead play tester of the game, basically. Just like,
yeah,
that's a hell of a practice partner. No wonder she's nasty.
Us too. Every LeBron James needs an Anthony Davis, is what we're trying to say here.
Yep, I got Oodsicle. He's kind of far from me right now, but we do throw
That's what
down.
TTS is for, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Oodsicle and I, when we play, man, and so it's like, okay, you got this practice partner. One thing, tell the other guy exactly what you're thinking as they're making their moves. I would say like deliberate practice is an important thing because there's no point in winning those games. Like we don't even play them out a lot of times. It's just kind of like, okay, let's deploy. Well, I don't like how you did this. Well, why did you go there? And that's actually one of my tips that I have. It's not just about that, specifically, but it's like if somebody asks you after a game why you made that play, there should be a connect to the win condition, of the game. Like, okay, so why are you setting up here? It's like, oh, because now I'm in charge range of this objective. Like, perfect. That points you towards the win condition. If somebody asks you why you did something and you don't know, then you need to reevaluate. It's time to go back to the drawing board. Maybe think of that again. So when you're practicing, you want to be telling them all this kind of stuff. Like, hey, you just moved this guy within, he's 7 inches away from a flamer. Knock him back an inch. Look at where this terrain is. You totally got a space here for for a firing lane. You know,
Yeah.
and as you're doing these things and practicing against this, you're setting up for being in an unoptimal situation yourself, you know, that you're going to experience in a tournament. You might not have noticed that before, but now, hey, you've experienced this. You showed Oodsickle basically how to, you know, where this firing lane is, so you know to not be there or how to counter that now and stuff. So I guess the too long didn't read version is you grow by helping your practice partner.
Yeah.
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 If they're getting better, then you now have a better practice partner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Exactly. All right. So any more?
I do have one more.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any more that you want to hit before, but
Is yours? You want to? Because if yours is good enough to close out, we should save it because mine isn't. I gave my good one already. That was the thing.
Okay.
all right, you can go then. I think
Okay.
mine is decent for closing
Okay.
out.
I was just gonna remind players of Gritted Teeth and Insane Bravery.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, this is something I was guilty of just even recently. You forget mid-game. If you have a sniper spec that has 2 flesh wounds, don't just remove 1 penalty. You know, you can give him a +1 to hit for 1 CP, or you know, you can remove 2 flesh wounds with Gritted Teeth. All of a sudden, he's hitting at full ballistic skill again.
Yeah.
It's like that is such a great tactic.
I've been loving that with running the Dark Lance.
Yeah, Drakari, they actually have a tactic, I believe, where it's for 1 CP it takes away a single flesh wound, right?
Well, they do have something like that, but it's like it's for the fight phase, I believe. They ignore the flesh wound for a round, and then they get +1 attack.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it was.
So I was just thinking about for like Gritted Teeth, like you were just saying, with like running like a Dark Lance or something, and like I'm ignoring the obscurity, so it's like not a lot of modifiers in the way anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they do get a flesh wound, it's like, oh, like no, I'll spend the CP.
Yeah. Well, it's like a big thing too. It's like even teams that can reroll, like salamanders, for example. You take a flesh wound, you're just like, damn, you know. But all of a sudden, you take 2 flesh wounds or whatever. It's like, dude, you pay a CP, and now it's like you're back to full ballistic skill. You got your Sally rerolls, all this stuff. You're just so good after that.
Mhm.
I had a guy that had it was 2 flesh wounds, end of the game, very recently in a tournament game, and one of my secondaries was kill the leader, and I totally forgot about this, and I was taking pot shots, hitting on a 6, and it's like, dude, I could have had 50-50 odds and 2 chances. Statistically,
Ooh.
that's 1 hit, and if it hit, I get that. So it was just like, damn. I would have been wounding on 2s, AP4, you know, all this stuff. And I wasn't thinking. You know, it reminds me of like playing with a dog. What was that?
Oh god, I was just saying it's so easy to forget that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of like when you got a new puppy and stuff, and you got that like those little rope toys or something, and they just get so into the game. Like that happens sometimes to me. I get so wrapped up in it that I miss certain things, unfortunately. It's like, oh, that was obvious afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's my last tip for today. Maybe keep this one short. And so you got one more, Mr. Shane?
Yeah, I've got one more.
Okay.
And this one is very general, and it's going to sound boring and obvious, but this is the biggest like correlator between improvement for me, like and not improving, and it is just play more games. Like seriously, with TTS, especially in the Discord and stuff, it is so easy to be able to play games like every day if you want. There's such a and even without like TTS, if you're not doing that, it's obviously easier if you have a practice partner. But the more you're going to play, the more you're going to improve. And for me, when TTS started to become a thing, I was like, oh, I can play all the time now, like way more often than I normally do. And then through that, it's just like the improvement has just been like meteoric. It's like crazy. Seriously, you like play the game. Like if you're forgetting roles and stuff, like this is just like, it's like rustiness. It's like self-imposed.
Yeah.
Just play this game. Like, I don't know. The more you play, the more you're going to improve. And it's a big correlator.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest correlator, I think.
Yeah. Practice makes perfect.
It's mandatory for things like melee because there's so much to it. Like, oh, I have to survive a round of getting shot. Now I have to get my charge in. Now it's like, is there going to be a decisive? Now there's the pile-ins and the consolidates. Like there's so much like little steps And then you look at something like Berserkers, right? It's like, oh, I don't get to swing if this happens, but I do get to swing that second time if this happens, and vice versa. And how am I setting up maybe for next turn? Because that pile in and consolidate, that's a 3-inch plus 3-inch movement, 6 total inches that could maybe get you closer to next turn's charge. Or maybe you don't want a guy to pile in onto an objective, so you come in and you base them. You go base to base so they cannot move closer. The rule is when you pile in and consolidate, you must move closer to the nearest enemy model. So if you're base to base, they can't do that. And people forget a lot of times. They'll know that rule, but they haven't maybe practiced it enough and stuff, or they're rusty, like you were saying. They just haven't been playing. Maybe they've had a long break because of COVID time. Yeah. But you see that a lot. Like, oh man, I would have lost the game if he would have piled in right here or something, and then they just don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, whoever's like listening right now, you can probably go to like our Discord right now and go on like the looking for game, and you could probably find a game of Kill Team like within a half hour.
Yeah,
it's so easy to play this game. It's so like accessible right now with the TTS stuff.
Absolutely.
I know that's not everybody's thing, but it's
certainly helped us improve our game.
Yeah. I mean, even if you prefer playing tabletop, you need to look into Tabletop Simulator. If it's something that's like you're not interested in the tournaments or something like that, you need to still be playing on Tabletop Simulator because you're able to try new factions, you're able to play people across the world, all this stuff. You're seeing all these new metas for the first time, like that Spain comp that we just had. We saw they were running Drukhari a very different way, and they got dunked on in the same exact packet, same exact format. That they're dominating, Drukhari's dominating here in the United States. And it's just a simple tweak of the roster that maybe they didn't think of because they were an isolated meta. And they've just been like a little pocket for a long time. So coming in...
I think...
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think when real-life tournaments come back, the players that are going to be doing the best are going to be the guys that are practicing between tournaments on TTS because they're playing more.
For sure.
And it's going to be the guys that are exposed to these different metas, because it's not just like, oh, my name's John and I'm from Michigan and I don't get to play anybody now. It's like, no, you played somebody from Spain last week. Today you're playing Tau with Beeranid or something. It's like you're getting this different exposure to a vast number of lists, of builds, of archetypes, of strategies, of different packets maybe. It's really important to get on there and prep, I think.
For sure. So that's like all the tips that we have. I mean, that was like, I think pretty resourceful talk.
Yeah.
But
I think it's actionable. I don't want to overload people because it's like, we can just do this again and have even more tips next time. But for now, it's like, this is stuff to go work on. Even if you only heard one thing, put it in play for a month. If you heard 10 new things, try it in your next game, each thing, and see which one maybe had the most effect and hammer on that for like a week of trying to get like a couple games here and there. Something to that effect.
Yeah. So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about before we finished here tonight. So the group stage just finished with TAO. I thought we could maybe talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so for those of you guys listening, the Transatlantic Open Kill Team Tournament hosted by Command Point on Tabletop Simulator is now underway. And the group stage qualifiers just passed. So what that is it's pods of 8 players, or pods of 4 players, I'm sorry. Several of those, basically the top 2 from each faction, or from each pod, it's almost like a qualifier. They move on to what is now the Elimination Rounds, and this is about to kick off. So big moment in the tournament just happened.
Yeah, and we just got the bracket last night, so we don't know who we're playing.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys talk about who you're playing?
Oh my God!
So I'm playing this. I'm apparently I've been matched up against this like no-name Kill Team player, Beeranid 40K. I don't know that much about him. So
never heard of him.
He's running like Tau Crisis suits, and I'm like, what is this? So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I got matched against this guy from Rochester. I guess he's taken a couple top 8s before. I heard he's talking about starting up a YouTube channel. His name's Ryan from Command Point Podcast.
He sounds like a total noob.
Dude, this is going to be so brutal.
I think you got
game.
it on lock.
Me? Playing against Drukari? Dude, this is the first tournament I have ever looked at and was like, I can play this one faction and do okay, or I just don't win. I've never looked at a pack before, a situation like the meta, and been like, I just don't really have a chance unless X, the way that I felt on this one. Because, like, Shane, you posted your roster, and I was just like, that's it. I can copycat this, or that's it. And that goes to your tip earlier, right? I should be playing that roster. I should have just taken that and run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I've still got to win some games before I can officially declare it as like the official, but I really do think it's the most optimal thing.
It is, for sure.
It's, so faction wise, there's 5 out of the 6 Drakari got out of groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, were you and Alec the only Tau players?
Yeah.
So 2 out of 2 Tau came out.
Yeah.
What do we got here? We have micros. We have Imperial Guard, 1,000 Suns, Grey Knights, Imperial Guard again, Demons, Drakari, Tyranids, Admech. We have an Astartes.
That's great.
Gene
Sally's,
Stealer
right?
Cult. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gene Stealer Cult, another Drakari, another Drakari, another Drakari,
Mm-hmm.
Eldar, Tau, Grey Knights again, and then Drakari and Tau with you guys. So
Yikes.
2 out of 2 Grey Knights made it out too.
That's a trip.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Who would have thought?
the
Not me.
precedent, or the clutchness of this next game, the reason that it stings a little bit is that only one of us is going to move on. These are now
There can only be
eliminations.
one.
Yeah, these are now eliminations. A single loss from this point on in the tournament, your road is done. And unfortunately, Ryan and I are now meeting at this next phase, and one of us will not continue on in the tournament. So this is, it's a bit of a blow.
That's the way it is, man.
Yeah.
And like we already know the bracket, so the winner of you guys has to play the second place from the last tournament.
Gotta play micro. Yeah, Micromancer.
Man.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Probably the person who's put in the most prep in this packet. You see him every day, multiple times a day, playing this game, doing prep. Now the tournament's going, and it's like, oh, so if I can manage to survive the team that basically made me think I wasn't going to be able to win this tournament unless I played that team, if I somehow miracle through that, I got to play second place of last tournament, the largest tournament that has ever happened with Kill Team. Yeah, that's great. And he's running guard.
It's a tough path to the finals, really.
Nothing comes easy in the Transatlantic Open.
Yep.
Apparently. I've got to play Eldar, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I remember I actually decided to play Drakari when I sad-hammered Eldar versus Drakari. I just felt hopeless, so I played Drakari.
Yeah.
So that'll be bitter if I lose to the team that I was thinking about playing in the first place, but decided against.
But what's really rough is I had to go against Drakari in the last match. Now I got to do it again. So here's these big bads of the pack, and I managed a max score against them. And now it's like, oh, I get to go try and do that again. Like,
One more time.
Yes, that happened to me in the last tournament. Like, this is so many things of these tournaments, these histories, just like keeps repeating itself. What happened last round? Had to face 2 Tau back to back. Now it's 2 Drakari back to back going into these things. So I keep getting these things where it's like, if you watch the game, you've seen basically some stuff, and now it's like you get that fresh like immediately after. And and then last one I got paired against Oodsickle, my main practice partner. It's like, great, first round of elimination. So so now it's like it's always against a bud.
Just like a sick twist of fate. It's just the worst unfortunate luck.
Just this dark timeline. You can't get matched against a red shirt. It's like, who's this? Never heard of this guy before. Yeah, it's always got to be a cool guy.
I'm excited to see how the rest of this goes.
Mm-hmm.
personally, you know what? Don't we have that spreadsheet going on right now? I kind of
Yeah.
I want to take a quick look at that before we wrap up because I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The win percentage, the faction win percentage.
Oh, geez, we're
Did
going
you
to talk
know-
about that.
Yeah.
People are
The
going to
only
find out.
100%.
Sorry.
There's one perfect rating so far, and it's just because of Matt Howell, and it's Gene Steeler called, so they're 3-0.
Yeah. It's like one of the best players in the world running cults, who also, interestingly, won the Spain version of this comp. Oh, no, he took second. That's right. He beat me to move on to the final because it was for third place. No, for fourth place. That was the fight that happened there, and he won. So that ended my journey, and then he moved to the finals. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, he could go deep here. I mean, clearly cults are good on this.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Asuryani, amazingly, 25% win rate.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
2-6. Heretic Astartes 2-4. You know, I remember in BAO Heretic Astartes because it was just Matt and Micromancer. It was like the highest win rate.
Yeah, because they were just
Yeah.
just steamrolling.
Drakari 12-5. I think only like 3 of those losses were to non-Drakari, like not mirror matches. So they might as well be like 12-2.
Yeah.
Or 12-3.
Yeah, there was a lot of mirror matches of like Drukari versus Drukari, and like in our case, I had Tau versus Tau with Alec.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, that was another sick twist of fate. It's like everybody else. It's like, oh, I get to, like, I get this easy pod or something, and me, it's like, oh, he's top 8 of LVO.
Yep.
We got to play. He's playing the same faction as me. Mirror match. Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Yeah. This shan't be challenging. Not at all. Yeah, we should avoid this win-loss ratio talk because, well, I'll just tell him I had 1 loss, 1 tie, and 1 win. I had like tripped, fell.
Me too, man.
Yeah, I tripped, fell, and made my way out of pods, basically. Barely. I needed like that 18-point win in the last game. And then that tie. I have never had a tie like what happened with Alec in our game. It was not only was it a mirror match, not only did we tie, but all of the tiebreakers we tied on, and it was a literal, actual draw. And we both.
Yeah, this is the only packet I've ever seen where they just allow a tie.
Yeah.
Usually it's like just roll a d6,
Just roll a D6.
pray to the dice god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like that better?
No, not really. Because I've been screwed by every tiebreaker ever.
Yeah.
In fact, the last time Alec and I played was at SoCal Open. It was a tied game again, and I lost on a tiebreaker.
Yeah. I'm like a big soccer fan, so I don't really care about ties. Like, they don't bother me. I know a lot of people that watch like American sports and whatever.
It's definitely an American
We
thing.
can't tie. There can't be a tie.
Yeah.
And then they'll go to like the most asinine like tiebreaker.
Like even now with like the NFL, they allow ties now, and every time I see a tie, I'm just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's just like innate for me.
I don't mind it. You know, I'm a big hockey fan too. It's like if there's a tie in like a hockey game, they'd go to like a shootout.
Yeah.
It's like, what does this have to do with the last 60 minutes of what I just watched? How does this decide anything? This has nothing to do with the sport that they're playing.
Yeah. No, I am much more in favor of a tie or a draw on a match than like, okay, you've tied on all the tiebreakers and tied on the objectives and everything. Now roll a dice, because that's RNG. You know, I want to minimize that from the tournament experience as much as possible. There's enough already baked into the factions, I feel.
Absolutely.
You know, look at something like Orcs, right? It's like, oh, I have a 6-up save. Oh, I hit when I shoot on a 6. I have a lot of dice. It could go great. It could not. You know, so the factions already have a lot built in, and when you add that in a tournament, it starts to get wacky, I think. So I'm totally fine with the draw.
Here's another thing. We ended up doing, I noticed, for like the tiebreaker for the actual groups themselves, it actually wasn't point scored. It was the point differential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about that? Point differential instead of point scored?
I think that happens in some other games, doesn't it? Like a lot of
like drawing back to like the sports analogy, like every sport has like they would prioritize point differential over
Yeah.
like scored points.
Yeah, I like that a lot more.
You
I
know,
mean,
what
it's I think like winning like 18-3 shouldn't be the same as winning 18-17, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And I think there was something like that in Magic the Gathering as well, that there's tiebreakers, but what they do is they look at who you played against and won against and how they had also performed in the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like strength of schedule.
Strength of schedule, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Which is a very interesting
That makes
concept.
sense.
I hadn't even thought of
Yeah.
that until recently. I learned about that. It's like, oh, that's an interesting
Yeah, no,
format.
there's so many ways to format a tournament. Obviously, with real life tournaments, like we're forced to do Swiss because people show up and like sometimes they travel.
Yeah.
And eliminate somebody in a tournament where they went all the way here for it. That's usually not a good thing.
No.
Yeah.
Even if you're sucking it up, right? You want to be able to play 4 games.
Yeah,
you bought
man.
a ticket. You drove all the way here.
Yeah.
So I get that. And doing a bracket, it's just not feasible in real life for a game like Kill Team.
Yeah. And I've seen it like at LVO, Holy, right? Who went on to win the tournament. He had taken a loss in an earlier round and was just able to come back.
Yeah, if that was just a flat bracket,
Yeah.
he would have been out.
Yeah.
Exactly. If it was elimination like this, he would have been done. Yeah. He would have been sitting with me because I would have been eliminated also at that point. Yeah. I usually lose my first game. If I'm going to lose, it's my first game. I don't know
That's
why.
the time to lose.
You did that this tournament too, didn't you?
Yeah. It's a thing. It happened in my first LVO. Like all this stuff. It's just a weird thing that happens. It's like my warming up. I need to start like playing a game before my first game, I think.
Yeah, the key is to get all the way to the finals where it's best of 3 and then get the 1 loss out of your system.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so
That's what I
excited
did.
for best of 3, man. I was like born for that format. I love it.
Big fan of it too.
Yeah, me too.
Another thing that's not that feasible for real life tournaments, but it's so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, they did it at Nova, and I heard that it was a bit of a slog, like playing through lunch and things like that, like big time just trying to finish out and get the points.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it mattered. Every point mattered in that format. And you had people that were just out of the tournament, but then you had people like Alex Torbert and Eric, the Tau player, that were just like, holy crap, we are inches away from victory here at this major tournament. And they're not going to go take that break or call the game early and stuff like that.
I mean, you can't, right? It's the finals.
Yeah.
You gotta play at that point. It's
Yep.
tough.
Yeah, that's what you've trained for all this time, right? Like everything that we've talked about.
Yeah, I cannot wait for the real life tournaments again. As awesome as it's been on TTS with all these things, there's just some magic to it, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Even at like a small RTT, like there's just something special going and like bringing your models and competing with other like people like that are in front of you. I don't know. I miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different like vibe. These past few tournaments, the ones that I've taken seriously on TTS, have been some of the hardest to prep for that I've ever had. And a big part of that is I was talking to Udsickle about this, and he basically summed it up really easily for me in a way I hadn't thought of. Is he basically reminded me that, like for example, Drukhari. Look at how we have 5 Drukhari doing really good in this tournament currently. They're an extremely hard team to actually assemble and have in real life. The mandrakes, you can't buy it at a store. You have to special order it from GW, have it shipped to their store or whatever, and go pick it up. And it's fine cast, all this stuff.
Yeah, that in and of itself turns a lot of people off from running Drukhari IRL. At least the type of lists that we've been seeing at the upper echelons of competitive play. Putting together a grotesque sounds like a nightmare to me. I know that the grotesque hasn't been as prevalent in DAO, but it's on Shane and I's roster, I believe.
Yeah,
so.
And it's something that shows up in other tournaments,
Yeah.
And then you look at like the Mandrakes again, going back to them, they only come 3 to a box. That is your workhorse of the current Drukhari meta or build. And you only get 3 in a box. It's like, dude, Is that enough?
Oh, you get I think you get 4, and then you get the Night Fiend.
Okay,
The only reason I know is because I own the box.
gotcha. Yeah, because it seems like
Yeah,
because I was
it's
thinking about him
assembled.
before, and I looked. Because I just wanted to run Mandrake. Like that's the thing. I've said this for a long time. I was like, dude, just Mandrakes. You could do just Mandrakes and do pretty good. Like Mandrakes,
it's fun.
Clivex, okay, but like pretty much just Mandrakes. They're
Yeah.
so cost efficient. Oh my god, the same cost as a Gene Stealer? What? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Crazy good.
Yeah. Insane model.
Yeah. I want to
Yeah.
paint some Gene Stealers, like kind of glowy and dark, lighting effect, and then like proxy them as Mandrakes. Be like, this is what they should be.
Hey man,
run
as long as they
Mandrakes.
got the same dimensions, like
Just
Yeah.
make a Gene Stealer and just give him that long white Drakari hair.
Yeah.
oh gosh, that's a sight.
How funny would that look?
Well, I modeled
Um,
some before with clothes. That was the thing. Like,
Oh,
because I read this book thing about like a one, that was raised by humans, basically like the 4th generation hybrid. You know how they're born
Yeah.
in the community and raised by humans.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, dude. I mean, I have kids. I don't let them run around naked. You put clothes on your little guy.
You put
So-
clothes on your little Gene Stealers.
That's what you do.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Aberrant's got jorts, man. So
Exactly. So
it's like how the like wolves were like. You look at a pug now, and it's like that was once a wolf. It's like we're getting to like the
how
pug,
did we get here?
pug Gene Stealer.
yeah, and it makes sense
Yeah,
fluff wise too.
Gene
Crunch
Stealers.
and fluff, because it's like, why doesn't this guy have predatory leap all of a sudden? All of this kind of stuff. Implant attack goes away. All of these wonderful things that Gene Stealers get if you're playing them as Tyranids. As soon as you bring that model over
Because
to
of the
Gene
mu-
Stealer cults, exactly. It's like, no,
Mhm.
he's domesticated now.
You got him down at the shelter. He
Yeah.
didn't have a home.
He likes his belly
Did
rub.
we save him, or did he save us?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh.
We got on a tangent. here.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
serious tangent.
All right, for those of you
Yeah,
guys listening, we'll close this out. For those of you guys listening, check out the Command Point Discord. Check out the Command Point podcast. Links will be in the description. Play some TTS with us. Come on in. The TAO game is going. All the games pretty much are streamed. You can go in, sit in, and watch some of the best players in the world play their tournament games, and maybe pick up some tips and think about what you're going to do. And also, starting after this tournament, closing out the year, we're moving into the Nova Open Sim, which is going to be hosted by Matt Hurl, but through your Discord. And so, now's the perfect time to start getting into this. You can get ready, and then you can play in Nova, the Nova Sim, the recreation that is happening online because it was canceled in real life. And so,
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes to even make that work.
Yep.
It's I mean, like Matt had to get what we had of the packet and like finish it basically, and then get it all made on TTS. It's been a process.
A lot of work.
Yeah, it's a labor of love though, and it's like I was saying, it's a perfect time if you're listening, if you're new to this, if you haven't engaged yet, come do it. You've got time. The tournament before is still going on, so you can get in. You can start rolling dice, start getting used to things, start getting into the program. You can look at the map soon and all this stuff, and just start getting ready and be like refined and ready to go, and have your teeth sharp by the time the tournament actually goes. So now is the time. It's a perfect time to get started.
Yep.
And so follow those links in the description. Thank you guys so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. Big fan of what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. Big fan of you as well. So
Thank you for having us.
All right, guys. So you take care.
All right. Bye-bye.